Hoje iremos assistir a uma conversa entre Robert Kiyosaki, o autor de Pai Rico, Pai Pobre, o livro de finanças mais vendido no mundo, e Tom Wheelwright, autor de Riqueza Livre de Impostos. Ouviremos eles falarem do porquê os ricos não pagam impostos, a cultura comunista nas escolas, o problema do aumento do salário mínimo, e até meio esquisito ouvir isso, mas vamos entender o porquê e a incidência de impostos sobre a maioria da população.
Well, if you want to read guys like President Trump don't pay taxes, I don't pay taxes, you're paying taxes. Then you went to the wrong school. I mean, that's all it means to me. So that's why Tom Wheelwright, his book is called Tax-Free Wealth. If you want to read the real story of America, read Tax-Free Wealth, and you'll find out why the rich are getting richer and the idiots are going to school and paying taxes. You see, somebody has to pay the tax. And, when we're talking about the New York Times attacks my friend, President Trump, and they say he doesn't pay taxes. Well, he doesn't have a job. He doesn't take a salary as President of the United States. So how can he pay taxes? Any comments about that, Tom?
Well, no, it's true. I mean, entrepreneurs, professional investors, the tax law is just built for them, and it's built for the government sharing on the investments that they make, and basically the government puts up part of the money, and they put up part of the money, and they end up not paying taxes, and that's basically the way the whole tax law is structured. So it's not going to change under Biden. All that's going to change is where those tax incentives lie. It's not the fact that tax incentives are never going to change.
Well, there's going to be incentives, but who's going to get them is the question. And unfortunately, the average person is not going to get them. The rich will still get the tax breaks, right?
Well, for sure. The average person, there's nothing in Biden's plan that says taxes are going down. He says, I'm not going to raise taxes on certain people, but there's nowhere where he says, I'm going to reduce taxes. So they're just going to keep going up. They're going to keep going up. And he says he's going to tax the rich, but what he's really going to do is tax the high income earners. That's who he's going to tax.
Just FYI, Tom, we always talk about the three basic taxes: ordinary, or the types of income, ordinary income, portfolio income, and passive income. I mean, that's basic rich dad, poor dad. So would you explain ordinary income, portfolio income, and passive income? And the reason Trump doesn't pay taxes is because he doesn't have a job, no ordinary income. He doesn't save money. He probably doesn't have a 401k. That's all ordinary income. That's what every person out there is paying. Right, Tom?
Right. So ordinary income is basically income that you earn. And portfolio income is income from investments like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. And passive income is income from investments into real estate, oil and gas, and other types of productive activities.
Right. And then passive pays the least taxes because you're doing kind of what the government wants you to do.
You're doing exactly what the government wants you to do. They're putting in the incentives saying, look, if you do this, we will contribute. If you don't do it, we're not going to contribute, and we're just going to take our taxes.
So when somebody says, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and put your money in a 401k, what kind of taxes are they going to pay?
That's ordinary taxes. So those are the highest tax rates.
Why doesn't the New York Times write that?
I think they're all employees and they're all paying the highest tax rates. They don't understand. They clearly they were attacking somebody, and they don't want to acknowledge the way the tax law really works. And here's the thing. I mean, Joe Biden was a senator for almost 40 years, and he was part of all those tax changes.
Right. Are you going to protect me from the monsters?
Oh yeah, for sure. So like I said, it's really just. The incentives will change, and we'll just move to those incentives. So, for example, if the incentives were in multifamily housing, and they may move to real estate that has to do with clean energy, okay, but they'll still be real estate. They'll still be energy. So it may move from oil and gas to solar, but there's still going to be the incentives, and it's just a matter of watching carefully and knowing what's coming, and then deciding, are you going to put your money where the government wants you to put it?
But this is the point. Okay, Tom, one more thing. It's about why we have no financial education in school. You and I have traveled the world. We tell people the same thing. We've been in capitalist countries, communist countries, and no matter where we go, capitalist or communist, they all come up and say, you can't do this in my country. Is that correct?
Every one of them. Without even in Kazakhstan, they came up to us.
But even in California, well, California is an exception. But anyway, they say you can't do this in America. Oh, you can't do this in America. You can't do this in Kazakhstan. You can't do this in Australia. But isn't it the same all over the world? The rich don't pay taxes?
The tax law is virtually identical around the world. The incentives are slightly different, but if you follow what the tax law does and what the government wants you to do, you're never going to have to pay taxes if you do what the government wants done.
You can still get rich and stay richer, but you got to keep your minds open and change your, forget what they taught you in the Communist Republic of Education. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and put your money in a 401k. If you do that, you'll pay the highest taxes. Get that through your head. We'll be right back. And you might open your minds as to why you might be making more money, but you're just paying more in taxes. Because as you guys should know by now, the rich don't pay taxes. And the reason they don't pay taxes is because they have better financial education. So as we started in the first part of the show, there's 3 types of income: ordinary, portfolio, passive. And the reason President Trump doesn't pay taxes is because he doesn't have a job, he doesn't save money, and he doesn't have a 401k. And it drives the academic elite nuts. So with that said, Tom, let's get back to the other things. They say, well, we're only going to tax those making over $400K a year. So if you're not making $400K a year, what would you say to them as a tax expert?
Well, first thing I'd say is, are you happy with the taxes you're paying now? Because they're not going down. Okay, so that's the first thing, is that you're already paying high taxes. And so the idea that they're not going up, oh, wow, great. They're already high, but they're not going up. Oh, good. So I find that pretty hilarious. And they're going to, with the inflation and the whole idea behind what the Fed's doing, the idea is to push wages up. You're going to be over that $400,000 pretty quick. And even if you're not, there's a huge trickle down. I mean, the reality is the rich are the employers, right? And so if they are getting taxed, then you can absolutely be sure that the employees are going to feel the hit.
Well, there's another way of looking at this. They must get inflation up. Otherwise, we're dead. That's why Janet Yellen took over the Fed and the Treasury. They have to get inflation. Otherwise, the economy collapses. So they just pushed with this social BS they put out. They want Starbucks, all the Starbucks employees to make $15 an hour minimum, which I feel for them. But all that does is push prices up. You see, if you understand the purpose of this whole thing is to push prices up to get inflation, because if they can't start inflation, we have deflation, and that's called depression. And that's why Janet Yellen took over from the Fed and the Treasury now. They're trying to push everything up. So they want to push your wages up, or so you can pay more taxes. And so that means we're going to have inflation in everything. So if Starbucks raises their pay to $15, well, that's going to affect everybody because they're everywhere. If you understand that, then you'll wonder why they don't teach you this in school. And the reason they don't teach you this in school is most school teachers are hardcore communists, but they don't know it because they never studied financial education in school. They don't understand this is a centralized government we have, and that's what we had a central bank, and then we had a treasury, and now they're one. And most school teachers are communists, but they don't know it. They don't know what centralized government means. We're now centralized government. So that's why what Tom is talking about here, if you're sending your kids to school, I'd yank them out right now and to, slap some put some capitalist information into the head, because you go to school, get a job, you save money, and you put a 401k, you're going to pay the highest taxes. And they're going to keep driving that up so they can get the tax base up so they can pay off the debt. Am I correct, Tom?
Well, there's no question. And of course, inflation by itself is a tax. So, you're really getting multiple taxes going on here. Plus, you've got other taxes that they continue to raise. All the states now raising sales taxes, property taxes. I mean, look at all the different taxes you're talking about. And if the Fed doesn't raise the taxes, the states will.
Right. And then when they raise taxes on property tax, I just raised the rent to the poor tenant, right?
Well, that's what happens. I mean, the rich never take the hit. I mean, let's be honest. It's not the rich that are going to take the hit. It's the average consumer. It's the employee. It's the average person that takes the hit every single time.
And the school teachers don't know they're communists because they don't study financial economics. If they knew that going to school, getting a job, saving money, getting out of debt, and investing in a 401k makes you the highest taxpayer on planet Earth, Tom, would you want to slap them around and tell them to wake up?
Well, for sure. I mean, that's why they're complaining about the rich not paying taxes, because they pay taxes. If they didn't pay taxes, they wouldn't complain about the rich not paying taxes. Here's the thing. The people who pay high taxes also get the lowest returns on their investment, because the type of things that you invest in to get the tax breaks also pay the higher returns. And so it's that combination of just understanding that, boy, if you really understood the tax law and you really understood financial education, you'd make higher returns, have lower risk, and pay no taxes.
Right. So, I want to endorse Tom's book, Tax-Free Wealth by Tom Wheelwright. It's a Rich Dad Advisor book. It's the basis of capitalism. You want to be a communist? Well, go to school. Go to school, because they teach Marxism. They teach Leninism in school. You know what Lenin said way back when, before there was a Stalin? What Lenin said is that you send a kid to school for 8 years, we've got a Bolshevik. And a Bolshevik is a member of the Communist Party. That's what Lenin said. It's a quote. You can look up Lenin. And the other thing he said is the best way to kill capitalism is to debauch the currency. And that's what they did in 781. And that's why there's a Fed, and that's why there's a Treasury. If you just study your effing history, not that communist history that they teach you, all this stuff about we're tearing down our statues and trying to change our history. Why don't you read history, you idiots? Why don't you read real history? Understand why we go to war. What do we do? Why are we fighting socialism? Why are we fighting communism? Why do we fight Marxism? And it goes into our money and our taxes. And that's why Tom Wheelwright is essential for his book, Tax-Free Wealth, should be your Bible as to how to become a capitalist. So, Tom, I'll give you a final pitch. Why should people read your book? Well, if they're going to be communists, don't read it. But if you're going to be a capitalist, why should they read it?
If you literally want to make more money and pay less tax while you're making more money, okay, then that's what tax-free wealth is all about. It's really, how do I do things that the government wants me to do? They're more productive, that actually give us higher returns, that actually give me control over my life, not those ridiculous 401k and profit-sharing pension plans that you have absolutely no control over. And you can control this. You can send your kids to school tax-free. I mean, you can have your kids earning lots of money and paying very little tax for your kids. So it's not just you. Think about your children and their children. And this is something that is really a legacy of being able to pass on the financial education to your children and your children's children.